Good morning, everyone. As mentioned, we will start this promptly at noon. I'm just waiting on a few more attendees to jump in, but we'll get started right at noon. As I mentioned in chat, we have everybody muted as you enter into the room. We'll talk about some housekeeping items for the session at noon, but give us about 2 more minutes to get some last entries in, and then we will get started.
Well, no.
All right, it's officially afternoon now, so good afternoon, everyone, and want to welcome you to IA&B's continued Young Agent Roundtable discussions. We're excited about today's discussion. I will formally introduce Dustin and Mac from the National Alliance. We're excited to have them today and very interested in the topic that will be brought up. But before we do that, just a few housekeeping items. Again, want to thank all the attendees today. Great audience. We appreciate your time. See a few more seasoned young agents out there, but no worries. We appreciate anybody. And if you're young at heart, then please participate in our young agent programs. Housekeeping items for today, as usual with these sessions. Cameras are encouraged. We would much prefer to do these in person, and we'll talk about that in a second, but cameras are encouraged for this session. Make it as virtual and engaging as possible in that sense. Likewise, discussion is encouraged. We want this to be good, open discussion. Dustin's looking for feedback, questions. So at any point, whether you want to use the chat feature, virtually raise your hand, just jump right in, whatever you are comfortable with, and at any point, please let us know. This session is being recorded so that you can come back and revisit. You can share with others in your office, but it is being recorded. And then, as is typical for these events by IA&B, we will share attendees' contact information with the group to allow you to further communicate, to allow you to network, whatever you feel best fit with that. So those are the housekeeping items. I do want to talk about, this is a greater part of young agent initiatives. I think you guys are all aware of what IA&B is trying to do. This is a priority for the association. Our futures, our young agents, and this is just one part of it. You are aware of our past futures conference, and shortly we will have some exciting information about futures conference and getting back together in that format. We have the Facebook group, which is a very good community of young agents and an opportunity for you guys to chat, talk topics, and continue to network in that format. The scholarship program you guys are well aware of, as well as the Young Agent Award winners. And we'll be announcing the new award winners shortly. We're taking nominations. And then these continued roundtables, a way for us to stay connected, to continue to get information to you in between the various events that we do have planned. So these have been valuable and have been a good source for keeping us together and just keeping some information out there. I want to take 1 second to talk about government relations at IA&B and how it involves young agents, and a good opportunity for you guys. As you're aware, advocacy is a very strong pillar of IA&B. We are working for you constantly in Harrisburg, Dover, and Annapolis, in our 3 states, lobbying on your behalf. but it takes volunteer efforts to help with that, whether it's being part of our government relations committees in each of the 3 states, attending the National Legislative Conference. We just concluded it this year, but we're looking to get back to it next year. So there are several opportunities for young agents to get involved in the area of government relations, and we are counting on some young agents to step up and participate in that. We have a new government relations director at IA&B, John Savant. John, you want to wave your hand for everybody to see? There's John. John wants to take just 2 minutes to discuss some initiatives and ways for young agents to get involved. But John, go ahead. What are we working on at IA&B, and how can young agents get involved?
How's it going? Thank you, Jason. So yeah, my name is John Savant. I'm our new government affairs director at IA&B. In short, my job is to make sure that you guys, the independent agents, do not end up as the unintended or intended, in some cases, target of someone else's policy agenda at the state level. So I'm going to run down a few of the bills that we're working on, but this list is by no means comprehensive. So real quick, Pennsylvania, the Safe Banking Act, it would create legal protections for agents who offer their services to legal marijuana-related businesses, emphasis on legal. There's also a bill to eliminate stacking and raise the minimum limits for auto insurance that we're heavily involved in. Maryland, your legislative session just ended. We have an Agent Headlines legislative recap that highlights all of the bills that we supported and opposed in the last session. I'll link that at the end of my discussion here. And in Delaware, we're dealing with legislation banning certain rating factors. Probably the most prominent right now is the use of gender, which would, if prohibited, could dramatically increase auto rates for young women. We're also dealing with, in Delaware, a bill that would change the definition of independent contractor in a way that would really disrupt the way that you guys do business. So stuff like this is something that sounds interesting to you. You want to get involved, reach out to me. We might have a handful of openings on our state government relations committees, which is basically a group of members like you guys who meet regularly to help decide our positions on bills and strategize how we deal with them. Last, I just want to throw in a word for Agent PAC, which is our political action committee. This is how we support candidates who are running for offices who understand our industry. Some of them come from the industry and they're willing to, hear our concerns and work with us. So if you're on this call, consider making a contribution to Agent PAC. We need to be involved in politics because politics is involved in us. I'm just going to leave a link to contribute to Agent PAC in the chat, as well as my contact information and a link to that Maryland legislative recap. Thank you guys so much and looking forward to seeing you guys more.
Thanks, John. Yeah, really appreciate that. I talked about some events. We want a strong young agent delegation at the National Legislative Conference next year. Mark your calendars for late April in Washington, D.C. IA&B will be hosting young agents at that event. Good way for you to see it. So just a continued efforts by IA&B to include young agents and to provide those opportunities. So with that all said, let's jump into today's topic. We're extremely excited about it. Again, let me formally introduce Dustin Bryant from the National Alliance for Insurance Education and Research. A lot of good things being said about the Awkward Insurance podcast and what's coming out of that. So we're excited about today. Today's topic is one that we heard from you guys that we could use some guidance on this, and it's the working relationship between producers and account managers and how critical that is to retention and revenue growth. It's sometimes overlooked. Too often just looking at new business and forget about the relationship. So this is a topic that I think is right on point for what you guys have been looking for. A little bit about Dustin. She's been in the personal lines insurance industry for 14 years. She led the Brown & Brown Arkansas personal lines division for 5 years. She's been with the National Alliance now for 2 years, working exclusively with personal lines curriculum, seeing a little bit of a trend here, personal lines. So I like it. We like expertise in personal lines. And speaking to that, Dustin has an MBA, a grad certification in conflict management, mediation, and of course is both a CIC and scissor. So with that, Dustin, welcome. Appreciate the time today. The floor is yours. And as I mentioned, everybody, let's keep this casual. If you see opportunity to jump in via chat, raise your hand, whatever, it will add to the conversation. But Dustin, welcome and thank you. And the floor is officially yours.
I'm so excited. That was a lot. I thought I was going to have to say all that myself. No worries. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. Let's get the screen sharing started here. Let's make sure I don't share anything risky. Oh my gosh, you all disappeared. Now I've got to bring you all back. All right, I want to see your faces. Where did you go? Can you guys see my screen right now?
We got it. Yep.
Okay. Now, help me out and tell me how to get everybody's faces back.
Boy, that's beyond my pay grade. We'll work on that our end, but we'll get those for you.
No worries. Okay, well, we'll just keep on going and just know that I will be speaking to disembodied voices at this point. So
Dustin,
I hope
if you want to see faces, your controls probably went to the top of your screen.
They did.
Okay, you should be able to go to gallery view or change your view in the top right.
Let's see.
And I've got everybody. I'm watching them closely to make sure nobody's falling asleep or on the contrary, if they're raising their hands, I've got an eye on them.
It's not showing me a gallery view. Oh, look, I think the chat's hiding. Oh, there you are. The chat was hiding everybody. All right, now let's go back to gallery view. All right. You'd think after 2 years, I'd have this Zooming thing down. We actually use GoToMeet at the National Alliance. So Zoom in terms of teaching is a lesser used form for me. So all right, so you guys are seeing my first screen here. Thank you so much for having me here. Yes, we are talking about a match made in insurance producers and their account managers. And just as I was introduced, I'm Dustin Bryant. I'm the academic director of personal lines for the National Alliance. And all that means is that I am responsible for the technical accuracy and the development of all of our academic curriculum and our content related to personal insurance products. All of my expertise is on the personal lines P&C side. So that's where I stay. I am also the host of Awkward Insurance. It's a podcast that we have at the National Alliance. We actually have 2 of them. We have Nat Alliance Now, which is kind of more our official, what we're doing, talk about our courses, yada, yada. Awkward Insurance is pretty much what it sounds like. It's anything goes. We talk about anything and everything. We try to have conversations, to be honest with you, that are more connected to the service role, because there are a ton of podcasts out there about producers and how to grow your book of business to X million dollars. But we're more focused on everybody else that helps those producers. We want to talk to the claims, and we want to talk to the underwriters. We want to talk to the account managers. We even have high school students and college students that are taking our curriculum. So we want to talk to them too. We have episodes at times that focus on them and tell them about, what is out there in the industry and how they can get involved in the industry. We have had an episode about being successful in the industry with dyslexia to try and target those high schoolers or those college kids who may feel a little bit, weird about going into business with a disability like that. So we do try to have various different levels of topics that kind of target everybody. And we've had some great successes with those conversations. So I am so excited to be here with you, ladies and gents, today. And I hope we will have some productive conversations on developing strong working relationships with producers and account managers, and a few tips and tricks that I picked up along the way to help boost retention rates and profitability for your books. So while we are going to be focusing a little bit on those relationships, we're also going to be focusing on boundaries. I don't know if you guys know anything about the boundaries books, boundaries in marriage, boundaries in business, boundaries with children. People thrive when there are boundaries. So we're also going to be talking about business boundaries in terms of your book and how to set up some of those boundaries, because when boundaries are in play, we know how to banter back and forth with each other, and we know, where those lines are set for the business, so that we can be more productive, more creative, and grow our books of business. So I have a question for you guys. We have, let's see, I think I saw that we had approximately 30 participants. I know that's got some administrative folks in there too. But type in the chat or open your line what your role in the agency is, just so I kind of have an idea of who I'm talking to. Keep it short. Whether you're an account manager, a CSR, a producer, an agency leader, I just kind of like to know who I've got in here. It'll help me. A VP, you guys, that VP title, it gets thrown around like nobody's business, does it not? No offense, I'm just joking here. All right. Commercial lines account manager, producers, CSRs, managing partner, owner, producer, commercial lines. Okay, great. Awesome. I hope that we've got some tips that you guys can learn from today. I hope nothing that I say today is something that you've heard, or at least maybe if you have heard it, maybe we'll say it in a different way that will spark some ideas and creativity in you guys. So I also want to know if you're responsible for a book, do you work on it alone? So for you producers, do you work your entire book by yourself, or do you have the help of someone else, like an account manager or a CSR? If you'll just type in alone or as a team, it'll kind of give me an idea on a conversation with that too. We've got lots of teams. Come on, let's get one who's working alone. Ooh, I've got some alones. Okay, so account manager, mostly alone, maybe a producer that's working it alone. So this is about the team relationship. But there are some applicable principles here that can be useful for you while working alone and hopefully make you a little bit more productive if that's how you're working as well. So if you're working in a team, particularly those CSRs and account managers, I'd like to know if you feel like you have a voice or a say in the production or profitability of your agency or the agency that you work for. Do you feel like you're just a processor, or do you feel like you have the ability to drive sales and really impact your revenue growth for the agency too? I know when I first started in insurance, particularly in this young agent, you've been in less than 5 years, you may not feel like you've had a voice at the table. I see 2 yeses. I don't know if anybody would say no or not if they didn't feel like they had that. But hopefully this will help there too. So there are many topics about bringing about the X million dollars in new business, in revenue or in premium. And we all know that the revenue is what really matters, because the premium can be really big dollars, but you might have really small commissions there. Producer is set to bring in new business, and account manager handles the service. I love that response. We'll get to that here in a minute. There are so many articles about building your book to X million dollars, but when you really dive into those, you listen to the podcasts or you read the articles, you Google online, it's all about referral sources, centers of influence, sales techniques, and the art of persuasion. Retention is nearly always forgotten, and it's the factor of the equation that really produces success. So here's another question. What is the first job role that you think people outside of our industry think of when they think of the insurance industry? So what role? Is it the agent? Is it the producer? Is it account manager? Somebody says claims. Do you think that's the first job role that somebody outside of insurance thinks of is insurance? If somebody just said, what do you do? And you said, I work in insurance, what are they going to assume that you do? Sales producer, claims, sales, agent? Absolutely. Absolutely. So producers, that's usually what people think of. At job fairs or even on social media, you see a ton of posts about come join us and be in sales and drive your own revenue and earn this much in the first number of years. You don't usually see recruitment. Like when I think about when I started in insurance, one of the ways that I got into it was an AFLAC convention, and there were a ton of sales producers. Nobody said, hey, come join AFLAC and help me service my accounts. Somebody said, come sell with me. When I was looking to move from my regional broker because I wasn't satisfied with my growth there, I went to a networking event at my college, and it was the folks that were there. It was really kind of fun. It was like this elevator pitch thing where you had to walk around the room and you had about 30 seconds to tell them about yourself and try to earn the job, right? So there were a ton of folks there that it was like, it was the ones that you might think of as the multi-level marketing type stuff, where it was like, you come in and sell for me, and then you have to recruit other people to sell for you. And then all of that stuff trickles down or trickles up or whatever. There wasn't anything there except for one. And that's where I found Brown & Brown, about being the service agent, being in the service role. And that's really where I thrive. So that's what I was looking for. So when you're out there recruiting, or when you're out there looking at what's being recruited, it's usually a sales role. It's not typically a service role, but CSRs and account managers are a critical part to agency success, particularly independent agents. So let's take a look. Oh, I got off my slides here. All right, here's another question. In the chat or out loud if you want to talk, and nobody's talked yet, but what can you think of as job responsibilities for a producer? What are your job responsibilities as a producer? Any and all of them. We already know sales, so please don't type sales in the chat. Maybe developing leads, consultant, advisor, psychologist. I would argue that that's the account manager role. That's the bartender role, right? Where we're just sitting there listening to everybody's problems on the other side of the phone, right? Maintaining relationships, okay? Consultant sales. Essentially, one might think that they bring in the business. I told you not to type in sales, so nobody's typed in sales, but if I hadn't have said that, you guys all might have done sales. You're driving in the business. All right, the next question is, what do you think the job responsibilities of an account manager or CSR are? Servicing the book. Okay. Nurture relationships to support, continue the relationship. Great. Essentially relationship managers, right? I didn't notice details, promptness, servicing, retain the book, servicing, continue to, okay. I didn't notice any mentions about CSRs or account managers being responsible for premium volume or sales volume. Most of the answers are processing and support, and that's a very pigeonholed and detrimental way to think of CSRs and account managers, particularly account managers. CSRs may be more in the service role. You might not have them doing too much account managing and internal sales, if you will, but it's very limiting. And if you perceptively limit these roles, you're limiting your agency too, okay? Producers are a necessary role, and I'm not here to knock producers, but I am here to talk about the support of producers or traditional outside sales producers with the role of the account manager. Additionally, we also need to talk about how the account manager role is, or at least should be, a producing role as well. And though you may only think of them as a servicing role, if you're not sending them to sales training the way you're sending producers to sales training, you're limiting them and you're limiting your book, because they are the ones that are in front of the clients 90% of the time. Once your producer hands that account over to the account manager, your account manager needs to know how to work that client for referrals, okay? So that's why you need to be treating them as sales, service, and producers at the same time. Teamwork is essential in successful growing and thriving independent insurance agencies, and the account manager role is just as critical to the agency as the producer role is. In fact, the two roles are going to be their most powerful when they work together for the success of the agency and the satisfaction and experience of the client. So client trust truly builds loyalty, and loyalty equals retention. And this isn't about client satisfaction. It's about the client trusting you to be there when they need you the most. How many of your clients know who their carriers actually are? Right? They call in and say that you screwed up the billing. They call in and say that you didn't make the right change. They call in and say that you should pay the claim, right? They don't usually know who their insurance companies are. Not many, and not many are even happy with their insurance. They're happy with you. They're happy with what you're doing for them. They don't even care who's paying the claim. They just care that it went smoothly, right? So they trust you, and that's the relationship that you need to foster. Many times the carrier reps are going to come in and let you know what your retention rate is with them. And that may or may not be your book retention rate, as you may have moved the client between carriers. So drop in the chat if you know or have an idea of what your average retention rate is for your clients. So you happen to know what your average retention rate is. 95, 94. I hope those are real numbers. Somebody just said yes. Yes, I know what it is. But no, I'm not going to tell you. Around 88 to 90. Okay. So the average independent agency retention rate is around 84%, with the top companies hitting around 94 to 95%. Without client retention, the agency is not going to thrive, and producers cannot keep bringing in the business if it's just going right back out the door. In my role in the agency, I was responsible not only for my account manager duties, but I was also the personal lines department leader for several of our offices in Arkansas. And as such, I was responsible for the growth and retention of the business as a whole. We acquired new books and at times their staff, and I can't tell you how frustrating it was to discover that a lot of that business that was on the books was there for 1 month and then right back out the door. It was not healthy, and it was an entirely sick book. We had to rehab those books and get rid of that stuff that was in for 1 month and right back out the door. That's a waste of time. Okay, so here are a few facts. Our industry has one of the highest client acquisition costs of any industry, and it's estimated to be around $300 to acquire a new client. I would argue and say that that's much higher, particularly if you have a larger account that you're trying to acquire. The cost to acquire your client is the cost for spending on marketing, the cost of your staff working on a client, and the resources used for that client. And we're a relationship industry. These relationships are started with a level of trust, and that's hard to get up front. So you've got to spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, maybe some donuts or some muffins in order to try and get those clients in the door, right? You've got to keep going by with the donuts and the muffins so that they keep remembering who you are, especially if you're developing a center of influence for a referral source. Those client acquisition costs are high in the insurance industry. It also costs an agency more to acquire a new client than retain a client. Consider the time costs for marketing, negotiation, applications, inspections, premium collection, all of that. The Independent Insurance Agents of Dallas estimates that the new client cost is around 7 to 9 times higher than simply retaining that client. So if you're not retaining your clients and all you're focusing on is new business, you are spending your money like crazy. You are not retaining. When clients are happy, you're building trust, and trust equals retention. I must say that maybe a couple more times. Trust equals retention, because it's studied that people stay with you because they trust you, not just because they're happy with you. And being happy isn't just enough. There's no statistical connection to happiness and retention. We can be happy for a while, and then we get distracted by something new and shiny that makes us happier. It's not that we weren't happy before, it's just that this makes us happier. So think about a new car. I want to know what your preferred brand of car is. You're not going to make fun of my preferred brand of car. What's your preferred brand of car? A Subaru, a VW. I'm really basic. I am basic Betty over here. Ford. Is Ford considered basic Betty? It might be. So I have an affinity for Nissans. Even though my last 6 vehicles have been a Nissan, I don't particularly just like them because they're Nissans. The reason why is because the salesperson that we've bought our last 6 Nissans from is a former law enforcement colleague of my husband. He's a friend of ours. If he were to go to a GMC dealership, I'd probably switch to GMC vehicles. If he were to go to an Audi dealership, I'd probably switch to Audi. And as a matter of fact, we did want an Audi. And there's kind of a situation happening in the auto market right now, right? New vehicles are really hard to come by, and used vehicles are sky high. And the reason why is because they're available. They're on the lot and you can buy them right then. We were starting to look at new vehicles that we were anticipating for our soon to be preteen to hopefully be able to drive when she got to that point. We looked at a Nissan Kicks. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a teeny tiny little car. It doesn't have very much power. We looked at a Nissan Kicks. A brand new one was about $25,000. A used one was $27,000 because it was available. It had 11,000 miles on it, and because it was on the lot and we didn't have to wait for it, somebody's going to pay $27,000 for a used vehicle versus $25,000 for a new, because they don't have to wait. And that's exactly what happened with us. We could have ordered a new Audi from the dealership, but the lead time was between 4 and 6 months, and we didn't need the vehicle right now, and that was okay. But my friend, the Nissan salesman, had a low mileage used Audi Q3 on his lot. And because the cost of the used vehicles are surging right now with the extended warranty, And the cost of the used Q3, it was actually about $200 more than a new vehicle. It made me sick at first when I discovered that the new vehicle, it's not going to need an extended warranty, right? So it made me sick a little bit. It had 7,000 miles on it, but it was there. It was available and it looked nice. It was sporty and shiny and it was fast and I loved it. And I could not give it back to the dealership once he put me in it and let me take it home, right? So we bought that because we'd be doing business with a friend and not a stranger. I went with a used vehicle because it was available, but also because he was our friend. I didn't want to have to buy it from a stranger because then I'm not going to have his text or his number. And I text my friend who has a wife. She's a nurse. And when I have problems with my kids, I'm like, hey, what about this? And can you ask for this? He's my used car dealer. We are friends. I trust him. And that's why that relationship is there. So no matter where he went, I was probably going to follow him around. My loyalty isn't contingent on my happiness with him. My loyalty was just to him. So that's why if I were happier at the Audi dealership, I just would have bought an Audi. It's fine. But my loyalty was to him as a friend. And that's why he retains me, right? Clients who are referred by other clients are more likely to stay with your agency. This is a personal commitment here. They don't want to leave if a friend or a business contact has referred them because they value that relationship. And in some way, they feel responsible for the success of that relationship. That's how retention happens, when somebody feels obligated or responsible to maintaining a relationship. Client referrals are a large focus for account managers and producers alike, and they should be. So how do we improve retention? We know the standard answers for our industry, and we'll take a look at several of them. But in terms of the team, we need to develop a team that is driven by selling on coverage, not on premium. No, you've heard that. You need to sell the coverage, not the premium, because if you're going to sell on premium, you're going to lose on premium and you're going to have that account go right back out the door, maybe even the next month, because once they start searching insurance on their computer, guess what happens on Facebook? They get a crap ton of ads for other insurance companies. So if you don't have the right premium and that's all you sold on, they're going to leave for $10 the next month with what they say is better coverage, right? All right, this includes cross-selling. We've all likely heard the information that the more lines of business that you have with a client, the higher their retention rate is with your agency. Maybe, maybe not. When you've got everything in one place and it's easily accessible for them, they can grab that from online and shoot it over to another insurance agent. It's not that hard these days. It used to be when they had to go thumbing through the files in order to look up their coverage and in order to give it to the next agent to quote, but it's not that hard anymore. Focus on niche or preferred ideal clients. The best preferred client or niche is going to be the one that you're passionate about, whether this is personal lines or commercial. If you want to niche down in trucking or anything like that, it's going to be something that you are passionate about. Pick something to focus on. If you're passionate about adoptive parents, market to some adoptive parents. Let them know that you're there for them and you understand for them. You've got to connect to them personally. You can change what your niche is from time to time and see where that gets you. We're going to talk a little bit about how segmenting your book will help you find your preferred client in just a little bit, not right now. The team that's successful is also going to be the team that's driven by the client experience. And this isn't just your phone calls that you make. This could be the tech that you adopt for your clients. Who's into InsurTech? I don't know, you can't raise your hands. I can see some of you. You can raise your hands. Jill is laughing at everything, so I'm just staring at her the whole time. I'm not a funny person, but if you're going to laugh, I'm going to think I'm funny. All right. No, so how many of you have InsurTech in your offices? Do you have an app that your clients can access? You do? Jill says yes. I mean, she could be lying, but she raised her hand. All right. So your experience could be the tech that you adopt to your client or adopt for your clients. There are a ton of things out there for you now. Just Google InsurTech. You can start to brand apps with your own agency brand. It doesn't have to be anything that looks like an app that your client doesn't want to have. It can look like your agency app and somebody's going to help you brand that. You can use tech that carriers are offering to help your clients. If you're having to go and pull an ID card for them every single time, you're wasting your money. They can do that. That's super easy stuff to do. So this is the client experience. But client experience means that you're going to be available for them when they need you, even if that's the tech in their hands. They're going to see that you're available for them when they need you if they're just accessing an app too. So consider this. Do you have trouble getting clients to get appraisals on their jewelry? How many of you are personal lines? Can you say me? I got 2 hands raised. I got 2 personal lines folks. I could be talking to a bunch of commercial lines folks. It's fine. But how many of you have trouble getting appraisals or updated appraisals for your clients? Partner with somebody local in your community. Maybe they can offer a 10% discount or a 20% discount on appraisals. It doesn't even have to cost you anything. But if you market that to your clients and say for the month of, what month are we in? We're in June now. For the month of June, you're going to get a 10 or 20% discount over here at ABC Jewelers to go and get your jewelry appraised. Just let them know that we sent you. I guarantee you that jeweler is going to be fine with the discount because they're getting more clients coming in paying for appraisals that they didn't have coming in to begin with, right? Or maybe you've got a budget for that and you can pay for a certain number, but the first 50 appraisals that come in, we'll pay for it for you, whatever. But that's going to be a client experience and you're going to get what you need from your clients and your clients are going to remember that you provided a service for them, okay? Or how many of you have clients with collector cars? Do you have a lot of collector cars? Maybe you want to niche in collector cars because you love collector cars. No? Okay. So establish a car show. Do something for the community. Have your clients bring their cars. They love to show off their cars. They don't have collector cars for nothing. They love to show them off. Costs nothing to get them there. But now you can see what cars they have. You can take the photos for the account that you've been trying to get because they haven't driven their cars down to you, right? Or you haven't been able to get to them. You can take the cars, bring in a collector car carrier to talk to them about their coverage, or even establish some of that client education about how you shouldn't be driving this vehicle on the regular. It's just for show use kind of stuff. Connect with your clients. Give them a reason to connect with you other than their insurance. Bring them around every once in a while. Let them remember you. And the team will function best with a service process as well. And we'll get to that in a minute too. Have an established process so you aren't writing or winging it every time your client calls. If you don't have a process in place, you might just be skipping around from one question to the next, not really knowing what you're doing. And that'll tie into our discussion about segmenting the book here in just a little bit too. Finally, you need a team that's driven by each other's success and not competing with each other. Account managers and producers don't have to compete, but a lot of times producers do see as account managers might be taking from their commissions or some way. That just means you need to be focusing on something else. You need to be focusing on the outside sales and letting the account manager focus on those relationships. They're not taking anything from you. It's still your book. But this can only happen when those other items happen first. Sell on coverage, obtain ideal clients, create a client experience, and establish a process. You cannot have a successful relationship between producers and account managers if you don't have those things. If you're selling on price, your account managers and producers are going to hate each other all the time because they're constantly going to be trying to drive that price down. And an account manager is going to be like, well, you just got rid of some essential coverage and you suck. Okay. You're going to fight with each other. If you don't have ideal clients, you're stressing your account manager out because they have to attain or entertain a client that's not fun for them. Okay. If you don't have an ideal client experience, then your client isn't going to stick around for very long anyways. And if you don't have a process, then you may not know what your boundaries are and how to argue with each other and how to stay within those boundaries, or maybe have some one-off business that's going to fit. And it helps develop that relationship. Okay, so let's focus on developing the team for success together first. When I started in PNC on the PNC side of the industry, I wasn't paired with a producer at first. I was put at how many of y'all just got put at a desk and said, here's your desk, have fun? That's the standard, right? Here's your desk, have fun. I processed for clients and all I saw was the customer name or the client number. I renewed coverage, I answered calls, I learned the ropes, and I was good at learning the facts and learning the ropes. And I even got a few funds and kicks out of it by reading a few divorce decrees that read like some juicy novels. Anybody have those? Divorces were always so much fun. Every time somebody said we're getting a divorce, I went, all right, I'm so sorry. What can I do for you? And then I just waited for that divorce decree to come in because they were usually pretty interesting. But I wasn't invested in my position. It was just a job for me. A couple of years into the position, I was promoted to CSA 2, and I moved into an office with one of our producers. It was my first chance to work with a producer. His office was in a local bank branch, and it was handling private client wealth. He was also prominently involved in the local community and the society. And it was my first taste of working, like I said, with a producer. He was older. He had been in the business for a long time. I had a lot to learn from him. He was seen as a top producer in the state by many of the carriers we represented. And the clients called, when they called for him. Not necessarily the agent or the agency or the service representative. They wanted to talk to him. Why? Because he had an established relationship with them. They knew him. They trusted him. To his clients, I was just the receptionist. They didn't really even know who I was. They didn't think I had any other kind of training other than answering his phones. All I did for him was I quoted his business and I handed it back to him to propose, and he would collect the EFT forms or the premiums. And then I would be shocked if the client even knew who I was. But once that happened, there was usually a mess I had to clean up because some piece of coverage was missing. So the premium wasn't collected right. The signatures weren't where they were supposed to be. Not all the forms that we needed were signed. To him, they would call him to make the change. He would email me. I'd email him back the ID cards or get the confirmation to the client. But it was all under his signature. And I thought that's how my role was supposed to be. Who was the one up here that said producers bring the business in and account managers service it? Producers set up and bring the new business in. The account manager handles the service. That's traditionally how people see it. And that's how I thought I was supposed to do it. Everything was going to be under his name. Nothing was going to be my responsibility, right? And that couldn't be further from the truth. That it needed to be different. So I didn't really thrive under that. I didn't see a sense of responsibility. It was all under him. He was driving the whole thing. I didn't have any conversations with the clients. I couldn't connect with them. It was just a job, right? So I was moved back to the main office and paired with a brand new producer, a baby producer, a junior producer. Any of you baby producers? You're not going to raise your hand. Never mind. Don't answer that. He and I remain great friends and colleagues to this day. He's actually on one of our podcast episodes. It's called Cheerleaders Produce because he was a cheerleader in college, and it was actually a really fitting title. It was a little provocative. I thought I was going to get canned for it at first, to be honest with you, but it went over really well, and it remains one of our highest listened to episodes today, even almost 2 years after it was produced. We grew up in insurance together, if you will, and we developed our relationship by trial and error. Though I earned my certificate in conflict mediation, and I think I used that on him a lot. He was my guinea pig for being able to use the principles that I was learning there. And he'll say that we worked with, for, and against each other. And that's honestly very accurate. We had a very, at times, adversarial relationship, but then we also had a relationship a lot of times that was like the work wife or work husband relationship, and that accidentally crossed the boundary once when he sent a text message that he shouldn't have, didn't mean to, and it went to, it was supposed to go to his wife, not me. It was fine. That's everything the podcast is about. It was really weird, but that was the relationship. We overcame that, and we continue to thrive through the years. So over the years, we developed a way of working that became very productive. And what made us so successful is that we respected each other enough to have fun, leave space to disagree, work together for the client and for each other. He did not see me as less than him, and I didn't see him as more than me. We were a team. But how? Because we understood the goals. We understood our operational boundaries, and that's where our success as a team began to thrive. Traditional producers need to be able to focus on bringing in the business. And if the producers are bogged down in the servicing and selling, like some of you said that you're doing your book on your own, the claim reporting, the billing, the ID cards, the change requests, the renewals, premiums, discrepancies, all of that stuff. If you're bogged down in that, you can't focus on sales, can you? For those who are account managers or CSRs, how many times do you leave the office with work still pending on your desk? Somebody said every day. I'm so surprised that I was able to lip read that. Every day. There was never, the one day I left my desk without something pending was my last day at the agency. That was it. Okay. Every day you're going to have work pending for you, and a producer cannot be bogged down with pending work left for him to do, or her, not just him, her too. Okay. So that's where the account manager comes into play. How often do you come into your office, sit down at your desk with a game plan for renewals or the number of remarkets that day, clear pending policy changes, or checking your CRMs or your AMSs with downloads, and that plan gets lit on fire? It doesn't happen. Like, you come in with your every single day, in big caps, somebody's yelling at me right now, big freaking every single day. I can't tell you how many times I wrote down a list, and it was a beautiful list, wonderful handwriting, and not a single one of those things got checked. And I was so upset by the end of the day. So let's look at how my agency developed a successful team. My producer, I'm so sorry if you can hear my kids screaming in the background. My older kid will get him under control here in a minute. My producer took me, my producer took me on COI appointments. Do you know what a COI is? Center of Influence. Okay. He took me on on those appointments with him. Why? Because if he wasn't available and that mortgage broker needed a client quoted right then, he was going to reach out to me. If the producer isn't available, do you think the mortgage broker is going to wait? Probably not. He's going to grab the next business card of an agent that stopped in his office. Okay. So he brought me with him. His relationships were my relationships. All right. The next thing is, my name was given to the prospect from the very beginning. I'm making sure that these are popping up right. All right. My name was given to the prospect from the very beginning. Why? Because again, if the producer isn't available, we're a team, and the data gathering process on the prospect side can take some time. We don't need that time to lag. We need it to be as seamless and easy as possible for us. Okay. Or I'm sorry, not for us, for the client. All right. So he would come in and say, hey, Mr. Client, this is Dustin. She's my partner. If you need anything, let her know. She probably knows more than me anyways. The next one is, if we visited a client I went to. Why? Because the account manager often sees and hears something that the producer doesn't. When account managers are used, they're generally closest to the carrier relationships. We know how many times the carrier has declined something. If the rates are looking a certain type of way for certain types of risk profiles, we know where the bones are buried for those insurance companies, right? If the account manager can't make it back to their desk with an idea, or if they can make it back to the desk with an idea of where they're going to put that account, then we're not wasting time quoting every carrier. And you might be thinking, oh, I have a rater, and that's bull. You have a rater, it bridges data. That's all it does. I don't care how many times that rater representative tells you that those rates are true rates. No, they're not. You know that there's missing information. You know that the clue reports haven't been run. You know that the loss histories aren't there. And all you've had to work on is what the client tells you. And that's not the truth anyways. So you know that there are going to be missing factors, and the quote is going to change. But when you truly know your carriers, which your producers don't, when the account managers truly know the carriers, because you watch those rates come in, you know what's getting declined, you know what's going to be a hang up, you know where you're going to put that client, and you're going to reduce the amount of time it takes to acquire that client, and your acquisition cost starts to go down. So once the quote was proposed, I took over the account. He didn't do the sale like my first producer did. I took over the account. Why? Because account managers know the billing systems pretty much. I mean, that's the best answer I got. Because we know the billing systems. We know the PIF, or the pay in full discounts, right? And we know that mortgagee bill does not equate to a pay in full discount, but our producers are going to quote it that way, aren't they? And then when we issue that with a mortgagee, that discount's going to go away and the premium's going to go up, and we don't need producers doing that. Because we know the forms that need to be signed, how to get the right down payment collected, and so that it doesn't double bill in the first month, because if you don't get it right the first time, then you've got to double bill the second month, right? Account managers know the intricacies of the POS systems, and that's why the account manager needs to take over after that proposal is made. If there are any questions, your account manager should be competent enough to answer those coverage questions too. Send them to the same training that you're sending your producers to learn about policy forms and coverage. Your carriers do that, we do that. Your account managers need to be doing it too. The rest is what you would consider traditional account manager duties. All of this service was my responsibility, not only to the client, but to my producer, to my coworker, to my friend, to my colleague. This is where the service begins to take place. This is where it all starts to shape up, right? Do you remember when we started, I said that without a producer, I didn't feel any sense of connection to the client. They were just a number. When the client is someone that my producer worked hard to obtain and we worked on it together, I feel a sense of responsibility to ensure that their hard work wasn't all for nothing, because that client's not just their client, it's my client too. I worked just as hard as they did. We're a team, and my producer's success is my success and vice versa. There's no room at the table for holding secrets and not bringing others along with you for the ride. If you're not bringing your account managers along with you, then you're not doing yourself a service. Which brings up a point: if you're not training your replacement, if you're not duplicating yourself, what are you doing? If you're not duplicating yourself, then you don't feel like yourself is worthy enough to be duplicated. You need to be sharing your knowledge. You need to be training your account managers, your producers. Your account managers need to be training your producers, to be honest with you too, okay? So finally, give the AM or the account manager responsibility over prospects referred by clients. And this is where the producers are going to get prickly. Those are my referrals, right? These are hot leads, and a competent account manager can handle them in their sleep. There is no reason why the producer, who should be focused on really developing those tough relationships, should be working on hot leads. It's easy, of course. That's the low-hanging fruit, is the hot lead, right? But the producer needs to be focusing on the cold, the cool, and the warm leads. They need to be making the connection outside of the agency, and this will give the account manager a sense of control over growth and revenue far beyond their servicing duties. And this is where you start to create loyalty of your account manager as well, okay? And guess what? This also gives your account manager growth in their career path. A lot of account managers stagnate and think that there's nothing else for them to do when they could be producers too, okay? The first thing somebody usually says to me is that if an account manager, you're already doing all this work, you might as well be a producer working on your sales and making more money. And you're right, I could do that, but that might very well be true. But do you remember where I said at the beginning that we need to play to strengths and weaknesses of everybody on their team? My strengths are in supporting others that I care about. I can do sales, but that's not fun for me. What's fun for me is having a personal connection with my producer and supporting them. That's just who I am. And that's the type of service representative that you need on your team, okay? I thrive in the role of support and achievement. The numbers don't have to be mine to feel a sense of accomplishment. Being valued and appreciated is where I found my driving force. But when others succeed, I succeed. When we found our place with each other and my leadership found that I deserved compensation for all of the efforts that I was putting into my producers and making sure that they were successful, well, then he saw that I needed to be incentivized for that. So your earning potential is going to go up for there. And if you're doing your job well, you need to be incentivized with a percentage of the commission of the book that you're responsible for and when it's growing. Okay, they're not going to give you a percentage of that book if it's going out the back door. But as an account manager, if you're responsible for the growth of that book, the cross-selling, the referral sources that come in from it, and that book continues to grow and that retention stays high, you need to be rewarded for what you're doing. And that's how you get accountability on the book. And that's how the team starts to work together, because we are all at the table working for profitability. When they're profitable, you're profitable. All of this is possible because we had a process. We established the process as an agency and as a team, and everyone had a say, but we didn't start from scratch. We had business on the books that wasn't profitable. I told you that we acquired some books that would stay for 1 month and they would be right back out the door, right? So we had to get rid of some of these accounts, or we had to find ways to service these accounts that wasn't sucking our profitability, right? Every account that came in received the same new business treatment because we've got E&O exposures we've got to watch for. You can't reduce that. And the process for the client service and existing business and continued relationships is where we needed to establish some service levels. So what do you think I mean? Why is this not moving? There we go. What do you think I mean by service levels? Anyone? What do you think I mean by service levels? I'm just staring at every single day. No? Okay. Here's what I mean by service levels. Does anybody know what the Pareto Principle is? No? Nobody knows what the Pareto Principle is? I'm going to struggle to say that. Anybody ever heard of the 80-20 rule? That one might be more familiar to you. I see some head shaking now. That's the Pareto Principle. It's the 80-20 rule, okay? That's to say that 80% of your revenue comes from approximately 20% of your client base, or it should, okay? Run your reports on your book of business from your AMS. Take time to discover who your top clients are. You may know who a handful of them are because you consider them your VIP accounts, but you may not know who all of them are. And this 80-20 is not a hard, fast rule either. You might run your reports by both premium and revenue. That's very essential that you do it both ways. And I'll tell you why in a minute, and realize that it's more like a 70-25 or a 70-30, and that's okay too. But here's the point. You need to establish client tiers. You don't need to be wasting your time on an account that pays you $20 in revenue and neglecting an account that's $10,000 in revenue, okay? So run your reports and find clear lines for 3 client groups. You can call them ABC. You can establish from the Olympics and go gold, bronze, silver. You can call them whatever you want. They don't need to know what tier they're in. Don't do that, okay? So you're going to establish your client tiers. Not switching again. There we go. All right. All the new business accounts need to be treated the same because you need that level of advisorship to be equal across everybody. It's your responsibility to find the gaps, avoid the E&Os, and protect the client no matter how big or small they are. So your new business process needs to be the same. So we're not going to segment that. But once you establish these tiers, you're going to find what your preferred client is, and you're going to start qualifying your preferred client, and you're not going to write anybody that you shouldn't be writing. Once you develop your segments, you are not going to write a monoline auto with minimum limits. Don't do it. It's not good. You're not going to write a one-off monoline mobile home. You're not going to write a one-off inland marine schedule with no supporting business. And you're not going to write somebody else's non-renewed or direct notice of cancellation business. We're not going to do that either. You're going to establish new business guidelines. And this is where your account manager, that what I'm saying here is establishing the boundaries. I said the boundaries books, boundaries with marriage and kids and yada, yada, yada. You're establishing your boundaries so that your producers and your account managers are not arguing over what's profitable business, okay? You're not bogging your account managers down with crap that your producers are writing just because the producer wants the new business to come in the door, right? So you're going to establish, we're going to start with bronze, silver, and gold is what we're going to do. Bronze, these are your low premium, low level accounts. If they belong to a producer because it's existing business, you're going to let the producer know that these clients either need to round up or their service is going to be at the lowest level. And that's okay. You've got to put a baseline somewhere. They suck your resources and you know right now who they are. I bet every single one of you could type the name of a client that is sucking the life out of you, right? Okay, they're your suckers. I had a client that would call me and he would want me to plug in zip codes because he eventually figured out that if the zip code changed on his auto policy, it would change his premium. So he kept jumping around to different zip codes, figuring out which zip code was the lowest. That's a time sucker. I have clients that would call in and have 4 different VIN numbers for me to quote. Child, if you're going to buy the vehicle, you're going to buy the vehicle. Don't ask me to quote 4 different vehicles for you. Okay? Those are time suckers. It's a no. Just don't do that. They call you when premiums increase $10. And to them, that's a big deal. So I'm not saying, laugh at them and say, oh, $10 is no big deal. $10 is a big deal, but you don't need to have clients where $10 is a big deal. Okay. Your next level, the silver, these are accounts that have the ability to promote up. They're multi-line, but they're under a tier revenue threshold. However, you've got to take into consideration that for some of these higher end clients, you've got to consider their premium versus their revenue, because you might have an account, let's say a $20,000 account with 9% commission. Does anybody know a carrier with 9% commission? I had a carrier with 9% commission. Crap. But it was a high value client carrier, so there wasn't really much I could do about that. But $1,800 in revenue, $20,000 they're spending with you. That's the only number they see. They don't see their revenue, right? But how about a $12,000 account with 14% commission? That's again, $1,800 in revenue. So that $20,000 account, are you going to treat them with a lower level of service than somebody that's paying $14,000? No, because they're paying you a crap ton of money. They don't see the revenue. So you're still going to be able to look at them. And even though their revenue might not meet that threshold, their premium might. So you might need to kick them into the next tier just because their premium is high enough to be there. Okay. This means that you need to run this 80-20 rule by both revenue and premium. You need to be able to see it from your perspective and your client's perspective to make sure that you take into consideration the perception of the client. Okay. Oops, I went too far. Your gold level clients, These are going to be the ones that are your high volume, your high referrals. This could be somebody that just has a not a monoline, a home and an auto that's a mid-level account, but they kick you a ton of referrals. They're your mortgage bankers. You need to treat them like VIPs because you need their referrals. So you're going to establish some service levels for them. I know we got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to try and speed through this. All that legal language at the beginning just kind of sucked the time out of everything. No, I'm kidding. All right, so you're going to have your service levels here, okay? Let's see, I believe we're looking at gold first. Yes, we're looking at gold first. So these, you're going to handhold them. You're going to call the carrier and stay on the line with them when they have a claim. All of the information that's in your system, if they need you to give that information to the claims representative, give it to them. Stay on the line with them and don't get off until that claims representative is done. You're going to hold their hand. You're going to follow up with them in a couple of days and make sure that the adjuster called them back to get whatever it is they needed. You're going to ask if the body shop is already ordering parts and starting repairs because parts procurement is hard today. Okay. So you're going to hold their hand to make sure that you're walking them through the process. Billing, handle it as much as possible in-house. You want to make sure that their billing is right and spot on. Renewals every year. Every single year for your VIP or your gold level clients. You want to make sure that you're not going to lose that account to another producer or another agency that's got the same markets you do because you didn't check their markets every year. You're going to provide them with a proposal and let them know either why they need to stay with their new carrier or go to another carrier because maybe that other carrier brought out a new product this year that they're going to be more satisfied with. This isn't about premium. This is about a better product. Okay. Your tier 2, your silver, warm transfer to the claim department. Hey, here's a claim. I'm sorry. Are you safe? Yada, yada. Let me get claims on the phone for you. You're going to stay until that representative answers the phone and then you can get off. Are you okay if I get off? Ask them first. Are you okay if I get off? Absolutely. Get off the phone. Service, take the information, create the change request and email it to the carrier every time possible. Don't sit there and process that yourself. You've got to move on to your gold level clients. Confirm every change by email. That's just a given. Okay. Renewals and remarkets, you're only going to do it when their renewal increases maybe 10 to 15%. If they ask for it, or if none of that has happened, every 2 years, because they have the chance to move up to the next tier. You might need to add another line of coverage that's going to kick them into the next tier, okay? Your bronze, put them in a carrier service center if you can. That's all I'm going to say. If you can't, or if you don't agree with carrier service centers, then you need to have the CSA. These are the perfect types of accounts for CSAs to learn how to transact on. If they screw it up, we all know that you can undo a transaction, okay? But if they don't level up, if they don't add another line of business and they don't improve, you don't need to be wasting your time on them anyways. Claims, provide them with the claim number and let them call themselves, or just transfer them to the carrier for claims. You don't need to waste your time there, okay? Renewals and remarkets, never. Don't do it. If they ask, you're going to say, well, I see that the premium increased because of this and this. If you'd like to add another line of coverage, then maybe I can go look at another market. But until that happens, I'm not gonna. They'll go, oh, well, I've had my auto with State Farm forever, right? Okay, well, you've had your home with me forever. So why are you willing to move your home to State Farm and not your auto to me? You're not going to do anything with them unless they're willing to do business with you. You're just not. You're going to let them go out the door because you don't need them. Okay. That brings us to 12:01 a.m. or p.m. Sorry, not a.m. If you have any questions about what we've talked about today, we can stay on the line if they want you to, or you're certainly welcome to email me and we can talk about some more stuff again. In terms of every year, everybody, in terms of the renewal process every year, everybody needs to get a renewal survey. They at least need to be asked, has anything changed? You need to try and capture the biggest risks that are happening in your market right now, whether it's ride sharing, home sharing, pool sharing. You've got to be able to try and catch those so that you can offer them the next level of coverage if they need that. That can be in a letter, that can be in an email, but it needs to be the same for everybody. For those gold level ones, though, you're going to call them and walk them through that questionnaire. Don't make them fill that out on their own. You want to have that conversation. You want to adapt with them. You want to learn about them. You want them to know that you're there for them at all times, okay? So establish your renewal process. I know we had to go through this really, really fast, but here's the point. Producers have more time to focus on new business when they work with their account managers. Account managers have the ability to drive sales within your agency when you're treating them like sales staff and not just like service staff, okay? Account managers have more time to focus on helping producers with new business and providing exceptional service, claims, hand-holding, and clients when it's going to impact the agency the greatest, when you're able to establish these boundaries. And then you're going to see that these relationships flourish, and you're going to see that they're training each other and that they're working for the greater good of building that agency and the client experience. Okay. Account managers even have the ability to develop their own COIs. When they go on these calls with producers, if they've never been in a producer role before, they're learning that from their producers, and they're going to be able to develop those COIs for themselves too. I had so many COIs in the agency. Okay. And I wasn't a producer. I was just a productive account manager. All I was. Any questions? I hope you found today helpful. I see we've already had some drop off.
Dustin, this is Jason. So I'll buy a little time if anybody wants to submit questions via chat. We have that opportunity, and I appreciate you providing your contact. So afterwards we can do it. But this ties in. I've been presenting on a winning insurance agency. What makes, we see of our 1,200 member agencies some distinctions between winning and losing. What we've determined is those agencies that have enough time to truly market and write new business. And I think you're touching on it. Typical agency only gets about 10% of their time that they can spend because they're wasting it administratively or otherwise. So you're suggesting that this relationship buys you more time to be out quoting and writing new business. I mean, it comes down to that, correct?
Absolutely. This relationship is essential, but like I said, these relationships cannot thrive if we don't have boundaries in the agency.
Perfect.
So that's why segmenting that book and establishing these as a team, working on what types of service you want to provide for each tier, do that as a team. Don't do that as some agency leader that's setting these services up together. Let your account managers and producers work on that together so that they know what those boundaries are, and they're going to work so productively together.
And then final question from my end, as we look at those profitable pieces of business, is that not a natural transition into commercial lines? Is that not going to be your more profitable? And I'm constantly asked, what should a good mix be for an independent insurance agent, personal lines, commercial lines? Traditionally it's 95% personal line, where we're trying to push and get that niche in the commercial, but what's your viewpoint on that as we talk about those profitable accounts?
The profitable accounts, in terms of, did you ask what's a good healthy split for an agency between personal and commercial?
I'd be curious your viewpoint on that, and are we naturally
My viewpoint on what's healthy for an agency is what you're good at.
Okay.
What's healthy for an agency is what you're good at. If you're trying to write commercial and you're not good at it, it's not going to be healthy. If you're trying to write personal lines and you're not good at it, you're going to suck at it. So, but if you've got sales staff and producing staff that's good at both, then you need to have those conversations about when is the right time to move it from a personal lines business exposure that can be handled on a homeowner's policy or whatever, and move it to commercial line. But with commercial lines and personal lines as well, they need to be working on remarkets or renewal meetings together. Your personal lines staff needs to know about the key players in commercial accounts and get those into the agency. Because if you're writing commercial and not writing that commercial accounts personal for their key players, what are you doing? You're going to end up losing your commercial account because you didn't have their personal. Somebody else has got their personal and they're going to start asking for their commercial.
Yeah, good distinction. Excellent. I like that viewpoint.
So when I was with Brown & Brown, we had the 3 offices. It was really kind of interesting. We had an office in Northwest Arkansas that handled predominantly healthcare stuff, your life and health stuff, and they had a little bit of personal lines because that was just natural. Our Russellville account was predominantly commercial, and our Little Rock account or our Little Rock location was predominantly personal lines. So it was an interesting way that was split. But I would say that it was like a third of everything if we had ever combined everything all together, because we all focused on what we were good at.
Good. I like that. That's a good answer, and certainly some distinction to being so definitive, saying there needs to be a perfect ratio to it. So good. I see no other questions. Again, you have Dustin's contact there. By all means, use that. Same with us at IA&B. If there's anything else that you want to talk about, please do so. Dustin, thank you so much. Some good feedback already on that. We appreciate the time. Sorry for cutting into it at the front end.
Yes.
We'll get you some more time at a different time, but
No worries.
thank you.
I tend to talk too much anyways.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to the attendees. And as always, please make suggestions to us what you'd like to see in the future. We are looking for your feedback and what it is that you want out of this. We will continue to do these. They are very valuable, but let us know what it is you'd like to hear. So thank you everybody for your attendance. Thank you, Dustin. And if we don't chat, have a great summer, everybody. But I'm sure we will be talking in the very near future about something else insurance related. So thanks everybody. Have a great rest of the day and we will be talking soon. Bye.
Thank you.